So we have some great news. The IRS finally released their guidance to let us know whether or not we should include any stimulus payments, any relief checks, anything like that in our federal tax return for 2022. And I want to address what's going on because a lot of people have been questioning, do I need to include this into my tax return? Well, the IRS said last week that they don't know, but they will issue guidance as soon as possible. The good news is it finally came out yesterday. So let's address what the IRS actually said. Here's what we know. The IRS says many states, their rebates are not taxable at the federal level. This is good news. This is really good news, which means you don't have to pay taxes on money that your state gave you. Okay? Now, I do want to read you a couple things that the IRS says. So here we go right here. It says, the IRS has determined that in the interest of sound tax administration and other factors, taxpayers in many states will not need to report these payments on their 2022 tax returns. Now, there's a couple different instances here, okay? Some are, you get a refund of state paid taxes, and those are coming from 4 specific states. And then other states, it was general welfare and disaster relief payments, okay? So here are the different states, okay? So right here, these are the ones for refund of state taxes that were paid, okay? And these ones are Georgia, Massachusetts, South Carolina, and Virginia. Now, the next one, and this is one that more people are pretty much falling under this category, but what you need to keep in mind is that the people that are going to, and I'm going to show you the list, okay, of all the states, and we can kind of talk about, the payment that you got, but all these states, you don't have to claim this income. Now, you do have to claim income. Let me find it for you really quick. You do have to claim income if you are receiving, well, really any income, for example. But if you're from Alaska, okay, and you receive payments, you can see it right here, okay. Other payments right here. It says other payments that may have been made by states are generally includable in income for federal income tax purposes. This includes the annual payment of Alaska's permanent fund dividend and any payments from states provided as compensation to workers. So if you received a state bonus or relief check because you were a frontline worker, for example, then you would have to pay income tax on that on the federal level. But let's look at the states that you will not have to pay any federal income tax on your money. If you received anything from Alaska for the energy relief payment, don't have to pay any income tax. There's also California. There's the middle class tax refund, Colorado, the Colorado cash back, Connecticut, child tax rebate, Delaware relief rebate program, Florida pandemic temporary assistance to needy families, Hawaii Act 115 refund, Idaho 2022 tax rebate, Illinois individual income tax rebate, and property tax rebate, which are 2 different ones. Indiana, you actually had 2, the automatic taxpayer refund number 1 and automatic taxpayer refund number 2. Maine pandemic relief payments. New Jersey, the ITIN holders director assistance program. New Mexico, multiple rebate and relief programs. New York, supplemental child credit and supplemental earned income tax credit. Oregon, one-time assistance payments. Pennsylvania, one-time bonus rebates. And Rhode Island 2022 child tax rebates. Those are the states that are included. You don't have to pay. Being that we now have guidance from the IRS. Now, I do just want to say one last thing. This is actually very important, and I say this is very important because of a couple things. First, lawmakers, specifically Republicans in the House, they're looking at pulling back about $100 billion of pandemic relief money. And this is money that was previously passed and distributed to multiple states, but they're looking to claw this back, bring it back so we can then use that to pay down some of our deficit, our national debt. So that's one thing that they're looking at doing. The second thing is actually to pull back in, a majority of that $100 billion. That's an estimate. But pull a lot of that back in and redistribute it to things like Social Security, Medicare, and other programs, SNAP benefits as well. And so if we see this money come back, which we could, it's not going to happen in 2023. It would likely happen sometime in 2024, which means states would need to spend this money not by 2025, but before this were to pass. So if this is something that lawmakers are considering, chances are you're going to see a lot of Democratic states come forward and give this money back to their residents so that lawmakers, or specifically Republicans, are not able to pull this money back and try to redistribute it. So that is something that we could see. And the reason why this is such a big deal, because again, the IRS is now giving us guidance on this. What could happen is Congress, in another bill, it could even do it in a standalone bill, but they probably wouldn't, but they could come out and say, okay, any payment, any relief payment, anything that was coming from pandemic funds, well, this is going to be, we are not going to tax this on a federal level, or we're going to block states from taxing this money as well. Okay, so that's why this is such a big deal now, is because we could see some provision added into the next bill because of what just went on right here. Again, because this has been a mess for a little bit of time. So that's what I can tell you at this time. Again, this is good news. This means millions of people can now go on, file their federal tax return, and not have to worry about either having to pay some money and filing an addendum later, or maybe they're going to get more money back because they don't have to include this. Either way, it's good news.